This is the first of a 3-part interview where we sat down with Sam Strike, where we talk about his experiences during the making of Boys in the Boat. We cover a range of topics from the training phase to how he overcomes his nerves when preparing for and delivering his lines. Enjoy. We've got Sam Strike with us today. Managed to get hold of Sam after the SAG strikes have come to an end. So please, you've got a bit of time for us, mate, because I know there's a backlog of all that work. And but thanks very much for joining us first and foremost, mate. How you been? What have you been up to?
Thanks for having me. Sort of sitting out the strike, biding my time. I did like a little indie film and an interim waiver this month, so that was nice to get back on set because it's been a while. Yeah, I guess the same as everybody else, just kind of like waiting and hoping that it was all gonna end reasonably.
Yeah, you're based in New York, aren't you? So like, was you essentially just in NYC, or did you do a bit of travelling, or come back to Southend?
No, I didn't go back to Southend. At the start of the year, I don't know, maybe sort of at the end of the first quarter of the year, before all the strikes started, I was working on a show in New Mexico, and I've never been there before, so that was really cool, really interesting. That's when I was up at like 7,000 feet altitude, and I was feeling really strange, and I was like, I'm going to message Barry because maybe he knows about it. Barry gave me some tips that had all put my mind at ease. So that's the only traveling I did. I've not been outside of the state otherwise.
Did you go straight up there, or was there like a...
You fly to Albuquerque, and I believe Albuquerque is like 6,000 feet. And then you drive like an hour to Santa Fe, which is just over 7, I think.
That's a nice little Newsies reference, that, isn't it? Little Santa Fe.
I know of it.
There's a song called Santa Fe.
Right. It's a really amazing place. Like, you can really feel the old West there still, It was really amazing. I think they shoot a lot of Western stuff there. The thing I was doing was like a neo-Western, so...
What was your facial hair like?
Short. Probably like this.
Oh.
It was short at the time. I was playing a police officer, so I think there's regulations and stuff,
Fair. As disappointing. I was expecting something handlebar-esque, because you've got that in the locker. You've had that before, haven't you?
Yeah, I'm keeping it in my back pocket for the appropriate
time. I've got a really good way to unsettle Sam. Every now and then I might just drop in a cheeky wink, Sam.
Aye, there it is.
It used to make him physically recoil.
Really?
The origin of that, I remember, was when we were doing these Tabata workouts in training.
No, you weren't winking during that.
And like, we'd just occasionally make eye contact, and he'd just like steal a wink at me, and it was funny. And then it became like an ongoing thing all the way through the shoot. When you just randomly meet eyes with somebody in a quiet moment, it's just... kept me on my toes.
Times I was trying to catch eyes with Sam.
Yeah,
you were just staring. You stare enough. You get their attention. Yeah.
Probably about 10% of the time he sort of responded.
It's like the sun. Barry's wing, it has like a gravitational pull. You feel it coming, you turn your head and you see it.
There.
It's horrific.
Yeah.
So I suppose first and foremost, why we're sort of chatting to you boys really is just getting an idea really of the process, because I think we wanted to talk about all the work you did, because you just get the feeling like a lot of this just gets brushed over so much, doesn't it really? And you get your superheroes who end up in Men's Health with their shirt off and stuff, but like there's a huge gap in knowledge for like actually for something like this and like an Olympic film, what you have to go through. And that process leading up to, through casting into prep, into rehearsals and stuff, Sam. So I suppose, like, firstly, I don't, because we've not spoken about this before. Like, because we started on like Feb 1st, I think, something like that. How long before that did you get the nod that you were going to be in Boys in the Boat?
Oh man, I think it was like the middle of December I found out. Either the start or the middle of December. But I had auditioned for it initially way back in like June.
Oh, wow.
Right.
So it was like a really long... I auditioned for a few different characters. And I don't know, like I really liked it and thought this would be an amazing thing to be part of. But you sit through a pandemic for 2 years, and me personally, like I felt like kind of a backslide in terms of career. And you audition for all this stuff, and you never think the one that will land after the past few years is like the George Clooney MGM rowing movie, you know. So I remember being pretty shocked by it, and then it all happened really quickly. It was like I actually flew back to England on Christmas Day, and then hung out at home for a month, and then like February 1st, like you said.
Wow.
Yeah, wow, yeah, it was quick.
Yeah.
It's quite a long process, isn't it? I guess really all of that. What was your audition process like? Was it in person, or had we gone back to, or was it still Zoom and online?
I actually did it. It was all tapes.
Okay.
Self tapes.
Yeah.
I self taped in June, and then again in November, and then again in November, and then I found out in like the middle of December or early December, I think.
So that's 6 weeks. Like 6 weeks.
Yeah.
To get ready for day one, isn't it? Really, which I guess in normal circumstances is plenty of time, isn't it? If you're not going to be rowing a boat.
Yeah.
With 8 other geezers, 7 other blokes. So that's not long. Did you do much like in that time? Like, did you do what you could, or? I
was already for the past like year just like lifting weights habitually because I enjoyed it. But actually when I got cast, they said to me like, stop weight training. I think partly because they didn't want me to get injured before we'd even started. But I was training for size at the time, I guess, and I don't think it would have necessarily looked correct for the boys in the boat kind of thing. You know what I mean? I was kind of I was kind of bulkier, and then looking at the pictures of the real boys, they were all so kind of like long and lean, and I was like, oh. And they've told me to stop so I don't get injured. So it was actually kind of the opposite, man. I actually worked out a lot less. I went for runs and stuff, but I never really did much cardio, so that was a real struggle, you know.
So when you all came in, and obviously you were there, Feb the 1st? I know obviously about the prep period and stuff. What was the expectation then? Like, Sam, was there an expectation that you had to be fit and ready, or was it just kind of like, welcome, this is what we're going to do, here are the Olympic coaches, here's Barry, this is the plan? Well,
I remember on the first day we were in the tank, which is like essentially a swimming pool with a stationary rowboat in it, and it's a certain technique. And I remember we did like a session in the tank, and then Barry, you might remember, but it was like a stretching session or something. And we all got in the car at the end of the day. Like, I thought we were going to get like beasted. I think we were all actually really looking forward to the real physical challenge of it. And we were like, what was that today? Like, that was easy. And then the next day they split us into groups. I remember we did stuff in the tank, and then we did this workout with Barry, and it was horrible.
Famous last words, that was easy. Everyone's like,
it was really tough, but I think we were all like, oh, okay, good. I think we were all kind of gluttons for punishment a little bit with it. And, you know, I was how I was when I showed up. There was nothing I could do to change that. So I think it was kind of like I'm willing to put in all the effort and do everything necessary, but this is the block that I'm starting from.
That seems to be like the consensus that I've noticed from feedback from Barry throughout, meeting some of you guys very briefly, all these chats, that everyone just seemed to be like, together, let's do this, wanting to push themselves as much as they can and learn. And I think it just seemed like a really lovely environment, however challenging it was.
Well, it was always kind of, I remember thinking this from like when I started doing this when I was like 17 or 18. I was like, it would be so cool to be put in a position where you're hired for a job and they pay for you to train and get in shape, and it's not just you holding yourself accountable for being how you need to be in the film, but there's actually people being like, you better be ready when the time comes. You know, I always liked the idea of that, because I felt there's been stuff before where I was like, oh, I have to lose a bit of weight for this job or that job, but you're kind of really left to your own devices there. But I liked that it was like, what was it, 6 weeks or 2 months of you know, like everybody has to grind these 2 months. And Barry, I remember you always saying you'll get out of it what you put in. And it's like, I remember doing the workouts and being like, I might as well push harder, because at the end of the day, when camera goes up, I'm just going to be regretful that I didn't push harder.
Yeah.
You know, do the squats quicker, lean back on your heels more, like instead of just going through the motions.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is, I mean, I think the way we structured it and like the Tabata-based stuff worked really well for you, and you enjoyed it, didn't you? And like that really is that, isn't it? It's like it's a maximal effort type exercise and stuff, but you do have to be, you learn not to go all in sets 1 and 2, don't you? And you build into intensity and really go for it. But yeah, exactly that. It was just like, I don't think that was the good thing about it, Soph, as well, with like the lads. They were so single-minded in terms of the outcome that they wanted, in terms, not just like in the boat, but like aesthetically what they all wanted to achieve individually. I didn't have to be a cheerleader, really. I didn't have to be on anyone. And I think, I don't know if it felt like this, Sam, but it's just, you know, one of those you just treat people like adults.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's, you know, yes, they're to do a job and stuff like that, but I am judged on how they do, but also they take their job very, very seriously. And so I didn't have to push anymore because they did all the pushing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's just sort of making, if anything, it was kind of trying to just rein people in at times, if anything, wasn't it? And like just trying to like save something for session 2 in the boat, because, you know, like we said, it would be row, gym, row, basically, wouldn't it?
And
in at half.
And if I remember correctly, like we really insisted on the Tabatas being a regular thing because, I mean, I guess it's subjective, but I always found them difficult. But sort of despite that, it really felt like you were getting something done physically. Like you'd finish that and be like, I know that today I put in enough. It's that I can go to bed tonight and like, okay, you did enough today. Like,
yeah,
you know, I don't know, like it's almost like you the returns you feel from doing that are really sort of palpable.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I think like because it was so different in terms of energy systems, like because like being on the water, especially like towards the end of that training block, you were on the water for a long time, weren't you?
Yeah.
Like in each of those 2 sessions. Was there like somewhere you were doing like 13k rows, if I remember rightly, session 1, and then it was like gym, and then it might be another sort of 7 to 12. Like done like so huge volume.
Again, it was a while ago, so I might be misremembering, but definitely initially we were just going on these marathons, like really long ones, 12, 11k, 13k. For me, I found that I don't learn well that way. You end up it's like a little bit monotonous almost. And I think that they switched it up and had us more doing like intense short bursts. And that, I found that really exciting. And when you're excited, you're engaged, and then you want to learn, and then you end up learning. I feel like we made a lot of progress when we kind of did less of the really, really long rows and more like concentrated, energetic. I feel like that's when we really started fusing as a boat, because early on it was bad.
So bad.
It was bad. I was at the bow of the boat, so I can see everything. I can see what everybody's doing. There's nobody behind me. I can see what everyone's doing, and it was like there's an oar here, an oar over there, like all coming out the water.
Someone's been splashed.
I'm at the back of the boat. I was getting nailed, and then I'd get out and I'd say to Nick, one of the coaches, I'm like, can you have a word? Like, I can't even breathe. I'm getting splashed so much. And he's like, it's a team sport. He's like, it's a team sport. You got to figure it out. And he was right. He was so right.
There's so many great moments of just seeing something happen and just looking at Sam at the back of the boat.
It got
just
to
completely.
Point, oh yeah, I wore like a waterproof hoodie and pulled it all the way down. And before I'd improved my posture in the boat, I was hunched over. So I'm just like super pissed off. And, you know, like,
it looked like they just picked someone up.
Yeah.
Picked someone up he's just jumped in the back of the boat at the back, and he's not even rowing at times because it's just self-preservation.
Yeah, I couldn't. There were times because it's such a delicate. If one person is doing the wrong thing at the wrong time, the whole boat can tip on its side. And sometimes when it happened, I couldn't even get my oar out of the water. So I couldn't even get a stroke. It's really frustrating, but equally when you figure it out, really gratifying as a team.
Especially in that boat as well, wasn't it? Because like there was no cheating, there was no like new technology dressed up with like stickers and stuff, was there? Like a livery. It was just
they were
a replica,
like how
an exact replica, right?
Well, I was talking to Luke Slattery about this today, actually, earlier. Recently, Grant, the producer, sort of did an interview where him and George, the first time they came to Radley and saw us rowing, and we were terrible, and he was right to say it. But that was our first day in a period accurate boat. Every day before that, we'd been in these high-tech shells. I can't remember who made them, but, you know, like carbon fiber. But that was the first day in, like, the wooden boat. The gates were like creaky and stuff, you know, and it made a difference. It was tougher. You know?
But it used to contort, didn't it? It was contorting in like and sort of twisting, wasn't it, in opposite directions?
Well, Terry, we got out of the water that day and we put the boats on I stand you put the boat on, and Terry, one of our very experienced, very cockney rowing coaches, he started pressing on the boat and the whole thing was wobbling, and he goes, "It ain't supposed to do that." It was so